Hello, everybody. It looks like we are back. How bizarre. We've had this. No, this is. All right, guys, stop picking on people in the chat room. No one knocked us off the air. This is actually our provider, and I'm going to definitely reach out to them tomorrow. I will definitely reach out tomorrow. Someone's going to get a major chewing, to say the least, because this is a provider issue. And I can tell you guys that, so hopefully you guys will come back. But I will tell you that this is definitely a provider-related issue. And let me tell you why. We have some of the most sophisticated firewalls in the system. So you can't do a denial of service attack against us. You could try, but you can't do it. We have spent a tremendous amount of money on our network. And I can tell you without a doubt, because there are consequences for the network disconnecting. There are network serious consequences for those that did it. So, hey, Joseph, that was kind of bizarre.
Your show went offline there.
Yeah, well, our whole show went. I mean, this same thing happened last night during a show that I was doing with Sasha. The same exact thing, and a lot of people are out there going, "Oh, they're blaming people for taking us off." No, this is a network issue, and I can tell as people slowly come back into the YouTube. I am confident that this is a quality of service issue at the network level. And I am definitely there's going to be some chewing of butt tomorrow, because this has happened 2 nights in a row at about the same time. And something tells me that you got someone in the network operations center over there that's flipping the switches. And I will definitely find out, because number one, we're on a fiber optic line. I mean, our network is on a fiber optic backbone. So, and it's a business class. This is not a DSL, home-based system. We actually pay for business service. And so what, and then on top of that, we have Barracuda firewalls. For those that don't know, these are industrial corporate grade firewalls. And I can tell you, I know there's a lot of accusations going around in YouTube right now where there's a couple members of the group that don't like each other, and they're saying, you did it. Look, I can tell you guys without confidence, this is a service. He was okay. Good. He wasn't seriously okay. Because as I say, this was actually a service. This is a service level event. This was not someone trying to take us off the air. Now, who's to say at the network that they didn't take us off the air? But I'm definitely I get money back. So you guys know Comcast, who provides the service through Verizon to us, they have to pay me every time these lines go down. And it's not cheap. It's basically, I just got a month's free service. So, oh well. But as we were so rudely interrupted, I'm going to stay at you were talking about Kubrick's, the hotel room, the 427, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I thought that was interesting. Yeah. I want to mention also, just so people don't miss or do not comprehend the whole exorcism thing, I do not, by any power of my own, remove these entities. It's done by the power of the Holy Spirit. It's just my faith behind that. So I just want to put that out there.
No.
Also, there's
and that makes it is all done by the Holy Spirit. I mean, we don't. What do you think they're concerned with us? Well, I do have to say though, I'm not. When I first started doing this, I was concerned about demons and possession and ghosts and all of those things that go bump in the night, right? now I'm not afraid of them because I find out who we are and what we're made of and what we're capable of people. And I will tell you, that doesn't concern me. What now freaks me out is the reptilians. Those are the ones that keep me up at night because they eat people. And I don't want to be on anybody's food chain.
Well, I don't think they're going to eat you. You ingested too much fluoride for them.
Good.
And, too much Monsanto Frankenfood. I wanted to. Do you know who Simon Parkes is?
No.
He was European. He was elected to office, but he's also.
Yes. Yep.
He was raised with reptilians.
He's a reptilian. Yeah. Actually, Laura McDonald, when she was on the show, I got my memory. I don't know what's going on, but yes, I do know who he is because Laura McDonald actually talked about him on the show on Friday. About that, he's a reptilian. He's like, yeah, I'm a reptilian. What are you gonna do about it?
We're all part reptilian. We have the reptilian brain. I mean, they modified our DNA, so we're part of 22 different species. That's what makes us so unique.
Yeah.
What's interesting about Simon Parkes, there were 6 individuals on a round table, and they were all contributing to this conversation they were having, which is really fascinating. And Simon Parkes said he got stuck in this system because he was part of a mission that came to attack during that reptilian battle. He doesn't specifically mention that reptilian battle, and he gives a date that's not in line with my date. But that war he's speaking of, from my memories, was 11,500 years ago, roughly. His mission was to destroy an AI headquarters on Mars, and Mars was nuked. Anyway, he died in that battle, and his soul's been captured in his system ever since. So anyway, he's not the only one. There's another group that lost an entire battalion, 3,000 of their members, and they have not been able to get them back in this, also lost to this system. And what I discovered, what came to me in pieces and messages and visions and other things, that world, the one called Tiamat, the one that was on this side of Jupiter.
Yeah.
The AIs created a prison planet. And it's really ingenious when you think about it, especially if you start thinking in terms of the Matrix. You have these pesky humans that doesn't matter how many times you kill them, they come back. And it can be like Cochise or Crazy Horse or Patton or Rommel or Caesar. Their souls are just, they're always these really great warriors. They're charismatic. People follow them, and they seem to be able to figure you out, and it's difficult to stop these guys.
Hey, Joseph, this is the clock kicking in here. So can hold that thought, and then we'll come back.
Sure.
And everything. So everybody, we are back on the line. Tell your friends, send the message out. Let them know that we are back. And no, we didn't get hacked. Like I said, this is a service level issue, but we'll be back in a few minutes. And we'll continue this conversation with our very good friend, Joseph Reyna. 5
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network. Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
That is right, Andrew. This is the Midnight Ocean Radio Show. We are back. we are definitely back. I guess we need to do a little bit more housekeeping here before we get on with our conversation with Joseph Reyna at Five Eagles, joining us on the line. We've been kicked off a couple times already tonight. And yes, there is actually a service affecting outage that's going on. It's actually nationwide is what it's looking like. It's kind of scary stuff. Nah, it's not scary. That's what's going on right now. So if you are up in the New York area, Chicago, it looks like all the major metropolitan areas. What is going on? What don't they want us to communicate with each other? Yeah, it's almost like every major metropolitan area is down. Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Well, while we're still up, though, we're going to take this time to tell all those people who are joining us for the first time. If you are joining us for the first time, it's very important that you hit that YouTube button, especially if you are listening to us on YouTube. The other thing is, which is really cool that we have done, and for those that get out to our website, if you haven't been out to our website, you need to get out there. Because there is so much information that we have put out there for you, the listener. The main one is these little buttons right here. The iPhone and the Android. That's right. We have our application. It is done. It's on the right-hand side. So if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can download and store these shows right on your phone. What's really cool is it automatically brings in the archive. So all of our old shows appear, as well as our new ones, our live ones. How cool is that? Technology is a great thing. We're going to stay connected 24/7. I'll talk about connection. I will definitely be making some phone calls tomorrow with our provider to talk to them about their quality of service. Last 2 nights, we've been knocked off the air. About the same time. Well, last night it was 11:46. Today it was 12:11. So we will definitely communicate our displeasure with our provider. And if we have to, we'll get another one. We'll get a backup to a backup to a backup. There is this thing we have done, and I've done it before, where we use the cellular network to broadcast these out. But of course, does your modem auto restart? No, I don't have a modem. I have what they call a MUX, underground resistance, because we actually have fiber that runs into the studio. This is business. This is not a how do I say? This is not a home service. This is actually business class. We pay a ton of money for it. But the good news is that when it goes out, we get a ton of money back. So yeah, there's not a modem. It actually comes in to a professional, to a MUX. That it comes, it's fiber, and then from there it gets distributed. And then on top of that, we have firewalls. We actually have physical. It's not ones that we built. We have managed firewalls through Barracuda, who manage our laws. Yeah, I've been around this block. When I did the other highly charged, and I do apologize for keeping keeping Joseph in the background there for so long. But yeah, so I'm laying out, Joseph, if you're here, I'm laying out, there's people in the chat room asking about our network. And so we have a Barracuda firewall, which is an industrial grade firewall. It's actually managed by Barracuda. We have their engineers who manage the system. And if I was getting a denial of service attack or anything like that, I would know instantly. These guys are great. I mean, Barracuda if you are a small business or even a large corporate entity, they have different levels. And we actually were fortunate enough. I picked up a couple Barracuda firewalls from a corporate client of mine a while back, and Barracuda was like, yeah, we'll support you. And so they do all the upgrades. So it was a network outage that took us off the air clearly. And it's weird. I don't know. Did you see? Well, you're not watching, Joseph. You're not watching on the on the YouTube, are you?
No, I've got your website up.
Oh, do you? Yeah, because if you go to the YouTube, it's weird. I'm looking at the YouTube outage map for Comcast, and it's like every major Chicago, Detroit, from all the way from Boston all the way down to Virginia. The whole eastern seacoast is red. Miami is red. San Francisco is red. Los Angeles is yellow. It's like every major city is down. Houston, Atlanta, Nashville.
I did mention that the UN troops were already seen here on U.S. soil, and they're moving all that heavy equipment all over the country right now, and UN vehicles are all over the place.
I'm wondering if they're testing something, if they're actually testing a way of breaking communication, because right now I'm getting video. All right. So I'm letting people go. All right. I'm in Chicago. How's your internet there? Well, are you Comcast, number one, and Underground Resistance Network? Who's out there in the chat room? I'm asking them a question. Are you guys Comcast? And well, obviously you're in the chat room, so your internet's working. But I am getting, on my YouTube feed, I'm getting very video output low, which I can tell you that my speeds are phenomenal. I just did a speed test just to test everything, and my speed is up there. So that's weird. I don't know. I think there's something going on. And, let's talk about that since you brought that up. Just a few seconds, a few minutes ago. Not sure. It might have been horrible the past week. Yeah. See, I think there's something going on, and this might go hand in hand with what you were noticing. I've seen pictures all over the internet of UN, UNESCO trucks and tanks being moved all throughout this country. When you say you got blue helmets, I mean, have you actually laid eyes on these blue helmets?
No, my friend did. I called him about the currency reset. Looks like they're going to try and do it October 1st.
Wow. Yeah.
I received some paperwork from someone who's, they're part of an organization that's dealing with this, and seems they've gotten the go-ahead for everything. So, of course, they'll be expecting all kinds of rioting or whatever, and I guess that's what they're here for. Wow. But UN troops really aren't to be feared. The Marines, these guys, the UN troops, I don't know, it's more like a hired security guards type of defense. I've never really seen them stand up to anything. Of course, the Marines we have now aren't like when I went through old school. I remember hearing that when they took Kuwait, there was a bridge that Marines were holding, and that the Al-Qaeda had fought them back, taking the bridge. And I'm thinking, oh my God, a platoon of Marines, 75 dead Marines all over that bridge. And then I hear, but there were no casualties, luckily. I'm thinking, what? Marines don't retreat. You die on that bridge.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're teaching these guys nowadays.
Well, and I think it's important. You are a Marine, correct?
I was a sergeant.
Yeah, I don't want to say former, because you're never a former Marine. You're always a Marine. Once a Marine, you're always a Marine. And by the way, thank you for your service to this country. I appreciate it. And my family does too. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Marines don't run. And we were talking about that last night with our guests that we had. Apparently they, we supposedly don't have troops in Syria, but yet there's a special forces group that is working out of Syria. And the guest that was on there last night was saying that the same thing, is that these Marines retreated. Marines don't retreat. They follow orders. They were ordered to retreat. They would have stayed there until the last man died. But of course, you got to keep the casualties down, because then when you have people dying in foreign countries, that's weird. There you go. That's what happens when you go. That's what happens when you go to different websites. What is this?
Join the band's beginners movement at Uncle Band's
What the heck? That was weird. That's what happens. I'm showing people. I'll just get off there. I'm showing people some of the articles that were being posted about the UN troops in Texas on the internet. And yeah, they're here, guys. And a lot of people will be like, well, they make their vehicles. No, those UN vehicles are not made here in the United States. They're actually made in Great Britain. So they were shipped here. They weren't made here and being shipped out to the United Nations.
They took the Comal County Fair out there in New Braunfels, just between Austin and San Antonio. And it has really high fencing around it with barbed wire on top. And there's a whole bunch of tents in there, hospital tents, and a lot of porta potties, about 200. So this is being turned into a FEMA camp.
Yeah. Yeah, Underground Resistance Network says that the UN trucks are actually being parked at the Kellogg's plant. So go figure that. I mean, Kellogg's, obviously food, right?
I guess keep people from raiding it. Gotta
have my cornflakes.
We were talking about the reptilians, and I think this part's really interesting, and you'll find it quite interesting.
Yeah.
The reptilians, they have 7 different like caches, I guess they call them, the caste system.
Yep.
And the reptilians that are the rulers, they're white, blue eyes usually, and they have horns, sometimes a tail or wings. And the other ones, of course, don't, and they, of course, genetically modified or bred for it. The warriors, though, are about 12 feet tall, incredibly muscular, telepathic, very powerful. Their skin feels something like a pineapple. And apparently when they kill a reptilian, their bodies sort of self-detonate. They explode. And apparently they managed to capture one that didn't explode by, I guess they froze it or something. And they found that their bodies were riddled with nanites. Mm-hmm. And apparently they're in league with some kind of AI. And this is just stuff I've been hearing, and it makes sense. The reason why they destroyed that planet. The humans were the ones who were on that planet. Anunnaki are pretty much human. They're not reptilian. And when the reptilians were winning, they were ordered, apparently from Central Command, to destroy that world, because that world had the black goo on it. There was a prison planet. And I had mentioned that this ancient system was still operating, even though whoever created it was long gone. And the AI had figured out that these particular humans that were really troublesome, or any species with a soul that was troublesome, what they had to do was place them on this world, this special prison they created. And you weren't being tortured or punished or anything. It was actually a very nice planet. And they figured the more they oppressed these individuals, the more they excelled. So they just kind of gave them everything they needed. And when they died, you've heard, go toward the light. And now you're hearing people say, don't go toward the light.
Don't go towards the light, yeah.
Yeah, because that shocks your system and sort of wipes your memory. And you are basically born again on the planet. You don't escape. There are lights out there that are the golden white, the blue, and the magenta colors. Those are not this particular device. And it's a perfect system for capturing people. Apparently, though, when our little world was ripped apart from that world, I don't think the main AI computer was part of it. It sort of got disconnected from it. And so the nanites weren't receiving information anymore, what to do. And I think that's why the black goo just seems to try and make repairs on whatever organic material it finds. But the prison planet system, those sensors, we apparently brought enough of them with us that it's kept the planet as a prison planet. And that it just kind of makes sense why the reptilians would have wanted that technology.
I get it. So the black goo is kind of, it doesn't have a home or whatever.
Right.
So now it's kind of just it's in maintenance mode.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. There's also the work I've done in studying the work of Dolores Cannon. As she mentioned, something horrible happened in the future, and Earth was part of it. And volunteers were sent back to be born here on Earth. I think I've covered that a little bit with you.
Yep.
These volunteers, which are many of us, we don't get caught here like that because we were sort of commissioned to come here. They guide us back out of here. The ones who were trapped here, though, from other times, or maybe are not aware that you don't go toward the white light, they do seem to keep getting recycled. And the planet, you can't just have a baby and a soul automatically, develops inside this child. And speaking with Sophia Stewart, the lady who wrote The Matrix and The Terminator, which is the first part of The Matrix, she was explaining to me what she meant by The Matrix. Women were designed quite different from the men by the Anunnaki. They had to actually create a Stargate within the female. They have a much better immune system, much faster thinking brains, and they actually have the ability to create a Stargate because that's the only way they can bring a soul through. And when they create the body for the soul, it has to harmonically resonate with the soul so it can be captured by it. And in the Bible, specific passages, one that spoke of those who pass through the womb are mine, they must pass through the fire, being a reptilian phrase for all the firstborn are mine. You must, sacrifice unto me in the fire. It now says matrix, doesn't say womb. And she said that word appears 6 times in the Bible, so it comes right out of the Bible, which is really fascinating. The original word was matrix, and that's where she got the word for that. And this being a lot like an illusion, a simulated, kind of like a holodeck.
Yeah. And
when the shields of the earth fall down or start weakening, you start seeing all these things. Now, I guess the clowns are coming through, but you'll start seeing the dire wolves are being seen. These are extremely large wolves. And that same individual that was speaking about those people disappearing in the national forest.
Yep.
There'll be someone like ahead of everyone just a little bit, and all of a sudden they're gone and no one can find them. And when they do find them, it'll be years later, and all their clothes will be neatly folded as if they were brand new, just laying in a pile. And the body will be found not far from there, or they'll be found in a really remote, hard to get to location, if they're found at all. But now they're also reporting seeing werewolves, and when people come back with rifles and guns or whatever, the ones who actually saw these things, the dogs stop. They do not want to follow that trail. They want to go anywhere but on that trail. So let's say somebody hallucinated that they saw a werewolf. Why would the dogs be acting like that?
Yeah.
So apparently the Stargates are, I don't know, maybe with the shield weakening or something, it's causing splits in dimension, and the dimensions are merging one with another. That's supposed to happen in the what they call the end of time, end of days.
Yeah.
The dimensions start meshing one with another.
Wow.
So I wanted to add that information. I don't know if it helps anybody out there.
Well, that's important. I mean, as you're talking and stuff, I'm trying to get the author of the Missing 411, David Paulides, on the show, because I talk about this and people are like, no, that's not how it. Yes, he's got a whole series. It's called Missing 411. Just put it in a Google. Put it in a Google if you have Google in your area. And he basically has taken all of the missing reports where people just end up, they just disappear, and they're in the national forest, they're in the park services, and see that, and that creates an issue because that's actually because it's federal parkland. Local police don't have jurisdiction, so the men in black show up to investigate these cases, and they remain unsolved forever, and it's a problem. And they, like I said, if you had individuals, if you had local law enforcement, I think that they would get to the bottom of this pretty quickly. Well,
these individuals usually aren't out there by themselves. They're usually with a group.
They're with a group. Yeah, exactly.
Turn their backs on him, and then he's gone.
Yep. Yeah. The Missing 411 books that are out there. He's a journalist, and he reads the accounts, and a lot of the stories where people are walking, you got 3 or 4 people that are walking. Yeah. Some cases where the person in the back is gone, disappears. You have other cases where the person is walking in the front and they turn around, something happens that causes them to lose their attention, and they're gone. You got people that are sleeping in tents together, and the next morning, the person that's there, the sleeping bag is all, like you said, all kind of nice and neat, not disheveled, and that person's gone. It's just, yes, there is and this is a documented issue in our national parks. The problem is that when local law enforcement are called to the case, and I'll let David, I need to get him on the show. I've been working hard to get him. He's just, busy. He's actually writing another series of books, but on this, he's found another area that this is happening in. But the thing is that, these people are disappearing. The local police are called, or they're called in, and then they get pushed aside by the feds. The feds come in, and of course, nothing ever happens. And the local police are like, well, but they can't do anything because it's a national forest. So it's a federal issue. Well, the FBI, they just like, yeah, whatever. They all say, oh, the people just ran off. People just ran off. And it's like, well, okay, we'll go find them. Why aren't you finding them?
I was noticing when I was studying treasure hunting here in Texas, over every major location where history says a very large cache was buried, it suddenly becomes a national park. So I'm wondering if maybe wherever they realized these events were taking place, they made them national parks to, conduct experiments or whatever in there.
Well, Montauk, you go to the Montauk, that's the other thing. All right. So I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm probably going to get black suits, not black guys, but black suits. They might be black. I don't know, but guys in black suits showing up. If you have a desire to fly over Area 51 in your little airplane, call me. All right. If you have a desire to break into Montauk State Park, call me when you do it, because I'll put you on the air instantly. I will, whatever I got, because Montauk, a lot of people don't realize Montauk, where a lot of the time travel, there's still something going on there. I have it in good faith that there's a security guard there. And the Montauk building has been destroyed. It's the actual hangar and stuff is gone. But people say that you go to the state park and you can still hear rumbling. There's something running under the ground.
That thing they call Junior is there.
Yeah. Well, the monster's there, right? The Montauk monster's there, supposedly.
Well, what they did was, those UFO pilot seats where you sit and you think and you move in that direction, or you guide the machine with your mind. When they placed this one, it was one of their best individuals, placed him on it. For whatever reason, he visualized a Sasquatch, and that's what came through in not quite the full dimension, and killed quite a few people and did a lot of destruction. It's still there. It's kind of caught in time, but that's what he visualized, and that's what came through.
Yeah, I mean the classic Montauk monster. Well, and they said that they actually created that. They did that on purpose to shut it down because they didn't want to. So if you guys go back to the Philadelphia experiment, the whole thing is that they built basically a portal between Montauk and when they were doing the experiment, and so they didn't want to one side, in order to shut to collapse the tunnel down, you had to shut both sites down. Well, they didn't want to shut the sites down, so what they did is they sent through a monster to cause the other site to be shut down, is what they said. And that was what they call the Montauk monster.
And I heard they were using that to go back in time and eliminate troublesome individuals.
Yeah.
They were doing it all the way through 2012, but there's some sort of bottleneck at 2012 where they couldn't pass forward the Montauk project from there. And now that we've gone through that bottleneck or whatever, the time portal is sort of expanding as opposed to contracting.
Yeah.
So anyway, they can't go back in time either to eliminate individuals. And I wanted to cover that. Let's say this planet was much older, the solar system was much older. That also makes sense because we're not part of the Milky Way galaxy. You might want to Google Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. It'll take you to a NASA site. They discovered about 6 years ago that we are not part of the Milky Way. We're part of another little tiny galaxy called the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy, and we're being absorbed, sort of ripped apart by the Milky Way, 10,000 times larger. And that's why the Milky Way is at a weird angle to our solar system, because we're being absorbed by it.
Oh. So we're in a whole different area. So, wow.
And that would make sense for the ancient AI, that it was in another section of space, this Milky Way. Because the reptilians are basically from the Milky Way.
Wow. Well, guess what? We have another break as we roll on into the last hour. And Joseph, are you good? Are you you don't have to, don't feel like you have to stay. All right. I appreciate it. But we are talking about all kinds of paranormal things tonight with our good friend Joseph Reyna, Five Eagles, joining us from the great state of Texas, I'll have to say. We'll be back in a few. Hang in there as we roll on into the last hour of the show.
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network. Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
Yes, it is, Andrew. This is the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and a podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton, and I can be heard every weeknight from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As we roll on into the last hour of the show, we've been covering all sorts of interesting topics. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I kind of like this format. Maybe we need to have a little bit tighter, let you guys know what we're going to be talking about. But, yep, as we are filling in. So yeah, John, I have to let you that Rob Skiba did not join us tonight. We had, I hope we had a confusion in the schedule. And I hope it's nothing more than that. Those things we can repair. I hope there's nothing going on, but we've been unable to reach Rob. But that's okay, because adversity makes us stronger, right? In that regard. And, I like talking to Joseph. The Five Eagles is joining us on the line as we cover an eclectic range of topics. We've covered a lot, my friend, in tonight's show.
Yes, we haven't. And when we were talking about the meteor strike at the beginning of the show, I'm glad it was not a comet. And any comet coming near the planet, they'll have to move it out of the way. Were you aware that in 1442, a comet did strike the planet? Chinese documented it, destroyed their entire naval fleet?
No, I did not.
There are maps in China dating back as far as 4,000 years that show the entire Americas, both sides of the continent.
Yeah.
And they had a name for it, and eventually became more of a legend. But when this blue comet hit, they call it the year of the blue comet, it struck south of New Zealand, and 2 fleets were down there. Each of these fleets had about 300 ships, the largest ones being over 400 feet long. One of the fleets was pushed by a tidal wave 400 feet up into the mountains of New Zealand. 700 feet into the mountains of New Zealand. The other fleet was smashed up against Australia. That was like 400 feet up into the mountains. And then there was a fleet off of Oregon. They were pushed 25 miles inland. And the fourth fleet, they don't know what happened to that one. But survivors from it said that the comet was coming down. The explosion pretty much destroyed their eardrums. And to look on the comet just burned the skin right off your face. And when it impacted, it left a crater 25 miles in diameter, and that crater is still there today. And that was in 1442. So they discovered it long before Columbus. That's why they find crossbows here that date way back, and those round-looking helmeted heads that appear oriental.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm one of these guys that, I definitely don't believe that that Columbus was the first here. It's just that's mythology. To me, that's mythology. That's more mythology than Sasquatch or cryptozoology. That's most of our history, most of our modern history that I teach in school, I find the least credible of history. It's like I said, it's all molded. It's all molded and shaped and put in a nice little bow on it. So it's easy to digest. And I wish if I could go back and, how do I say this? If I could go back in time and look at the decisions I wouldn't change most of them anyways, because that's who I am today. But there's one thing I would have done is I would have taken the study of history a little bit more seriously than what I did. And then I would have then and I wish I would have been exposed to the likes of Art Bell and some of Art Bell is really the grandfather of it all, a little bit earlier in my life, so that when I was in academics, I could have challenged the mainstream interpretations of history and actually shoot them down.
In college, my history professor had a copy of the New York Times, and apparently we have a 10-year statute of limitations on classified information that they release, and they have a 25-year over there. So they released something that Winston Churchill said to Parliament, and what he said was, we must redouble our efforts. We must get the atomic bomb from the Germans before the Americans, so that we may drop it on the United States, and the sun shall not set on the British Empire again. And that would make sense if you look at D-Day. On D-Day, our soldiers stormed those beaches, and none of those pillboxes had been hit. The Navy, the British Navy, were famous for striking their targets. They hit 17 miles inland. There was not one single airplane providing cover for those soldiers. They killed as many as possible in that meat shredder. And the little floating tanks they were supposed to have for some kind of firepower, those were kept back by Monty. So they were just basically wasting as many Americans as they could over there. So when they turned on us, there wouldn't be so many to defend, to fight against them.
So why didn't they turn on us?
They didn't get the bomb first.
Ah. So Winston Churchill actually said that?
Yeah. It was in the New York Times.
Winston Churchill, and I'm going to say anti-America?
No, more pro-British, actually. Remember, we were colonies of Britain at one time. He just wanted to put the colonies back in order, I guess.
I know that they were upset. Let's face it. The British were highly upset because the American did not want to get involved in the war. I mean, and most of our higher ups, you had Prescott Ford, or Bush, who was the banker for Hitler. You had Ford, the industrialist, obviously, who was a huge Hitler proponent. Yeah, a lot of so the British, there was a lot of schemes and scams. There was a great book that was written about cryptography. It's the history of cryptography. And one of the stories is that the British actually released a false story. So people don't know this. And it talks about how cryptography was used in the war. So the British actually falsified a Nazi plan to attack America. They encrypted it. They sent it to the Mexican embassy, and then it was supposed to supposedly fall in the hands of government, American agents, right? And it was this plan that that the Nazis were going to come in through the Gulf and they were going to attack our infrastructure and everything like that. Germany was trying everything it possibly could to get us into the war with them. And, we were all about, we'll ship you resources, we'll ship you oil, we'll ship you all that, but we're not going to, anything else. And, Britain did some pretty underhanded things that tried to get it. And it wasn't until, they started to blow. Where Germany made the mistake is when they did the wolf pack into our waters and they started blowing up ships in our waters. Then at that point we were like, all right, we're in the war. But, and of course with Pearl Harbor, that was the defining moment.
Yeah, but that was another false flag sort of.
Oh, we knew about, now that you look at it, they knew that it was coming.
Have you ever seen Pearl Harbor? Tiny.
Yeah.
And they put these ships 3 abreast. It was a Saturday night. These were sailors. Why were there so many sailors on board those ships? They were completely packed. They were restricted to quarters so as many as possible would die on a Saturday night. So Sunday morning they got bombed. It's a Saturday night. How many guys are going to remain on the ship in Honolulu?
Yeah. Now, there's like I said, is that they had radar reports. They knew it was coming. That's not irrefutable. now is that they knew that the planes were coming long before. And there was actually the general who wanted to put us on a war stance. He was actually court-martialed. He was short of being locked up, told never to talk about it. So, look, our government has always used, opportunity to the utmost effect of their manipulation of the people. So, and that all goes back to the reptilians. I think it's all terraforming. I think the whole process, my opinion, is that we're all being terraformed, as a planet, the reptilians, or whatever entities in control these days. So,
well, I had kind of wondered about that with all the chemtrails they're spraying, the high altitude,
the high altitude chemtrails, the manipulation of the currents, the weather. I actually think that we're being terraformed, without a doubt. But
one thing though, this shockwave, it kind of has them. They will not survive it. The shockwave is too high a frequency, and normally they have the moon to hide inside of, which has a 25-mile thick core of iron. They don't have that to hide in, and from what I understand, this wave will go through pretty much all the matter, even on the planet. It's something they've been waiting for a long time. The entire galaxy basically has shifted gears and is moving up in frequency, and this sort of sets the stage for the next whatever's about to happen.
Yeah.
And this light, by its very nature, it reprograms DNA when it hits it. So they protect their DNA. They don't allow it to change. They hide from the sun. That's why they have a lot of the, I believe, the refractive material in the chemtrails, because the sun changes their DNA just from hitting their bodies. And this shockwave will change their DNA, but they won't be able to reboot. They won't be able to upgrade. It's too far of a leap since their DNA has not changed for millennia.
Gotcha.
And that's, I believe, is their undoing.
Yeah. They can't version in the software business. They can't version upgrade. They can only patch upgrade. They can't version. Not virgin, version. There's an S in there. Version. And hey, Joe, John in the chat room, because you're not watching chat, wants to know, he says, 5 Eagles, what do your legends, teachings, or vision say about what things will be happening in our heavens this year and next?
There's something called the Hopi Prophecy. Part 1 has 4 parts. If you go to the Acolyte's Quill on Facebook, I have that. That's mine. And I paste some of the best, documentaries and teachings that I've come across there. And that's one of the first ones you'll find. He pretty much nails it, what we're going to see. One of the last things, according to Corey Good, if you know who he is, he worked with David Wilcock. And when he said this, I understood exactly what he's talking about. One of the last things he said we'll see before this shift, this event, is we'll start to see dead ones, are not zombies, not ghosts, but individuals that have transitioned as if they're standing there. And it'll be mass sightings of this because the dimensions start to sort of blend one into another before the shockwave hits. And he said that's one of the last things we'll see. And if you followed what Major Ed Dames was talking about, the things they saw, they see an object falling from the sky. They think it's a space station. But now we have the Chinese space station falling out of the sky. It's a dead stick. And in the Hopi prophecy, it states that a dwelling in the heavens will fall to earth. And that's not the blue star they're talking about. The shockwave coming from the center of the galaxy, it'll be just above Scorpio's tail, and Sagittarius's arrow points right toward it. It'll seem like a blue star. It's almost directly opposite of the polar star in our sky. and it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger until it pretty much takes up the whole sky. That's a shockwave coming toward us, and it'll look blue because of the way light reacts as it's moving towards you.
Sure.
He also said that right before whatever happens toward the end, one of the last things they saw, the remote viewers, was there are battles taking place. Let's say any skirmish around the world, take your pick, and all of a sudden they stop firing at each other, they stop shooting at each other, and they start looking into the sky and they start pointing, and eventually somebody stands up and is pointing, but they don't get shot, and then more people stand up, and pretty soon they're all standing up and just walking around and pointing to the sky, and then they all just kind of walk away and go home. And the remote viewers look and they can't see what's in the sky. But I've seen it. I've dreamed it. It's these massive ships moving through our skies. And ask any little child, they've dreamed these ships as well. It's like full disclosure, I guess, because at that point, when you see that, all of a sudden your radical Islamic beliefs kind of go out the window as do the Christianity stuff.
Yeah.
When I wrote my book about Christ and what took place during the crucifixion, with the moon moving out of orbit, blocking the sun for 3.5 hours, and then going back into position, that's when I started trying to figure out, okay, well, where does the moon come from? And then I found out about the reptilians and the Anunnaki and the ancient galactic battles that took place in the Nephilim wars, where they won back the moon and took back the earth away from the reptilians. And I discovered that they're all linked. What Christ came to do, they obviously assisted with that. And we're supposed to be these star travelers eventually, but we've been down here on Earth, and there's been 2 major factions fighting against each other and using us as pawns, and a third faction has now come in, and they are more ancient than these 2, and they sort of help this planet be the other planet, actually Tiamat, seeding it, putting life on it, things like that. And so they've come in and they have far more capabilities, technologies, and powers, and they pretty much said, okay, that's it, enough. The humans will now be allowed to develop. And when I was writing the book, I wanted to leave stuff like that out of it, because I was trying to convince Christians that Christ did exist. He was real. There is evidence for the resurrection, and he's not what we've been told, this demigod. He kept saying, we are the sons of God. He was human. He was 100% human. And he managed to become a light body. And that's what is about to happen to us when the shockwave hits. You cannot be afraid. And that's why I like exorcism, because it kind of teaches me not to be afraid. And like, you're going to that building, and I'm sure some things will be in there that'll turn you white. But if you have a strong core belief and faith, then they will not harm you. You will not fear as normal people would. And conquering that is very important, because you have to know that this energy is coming. It's not to destroy you. It's not judgment. Mm-hmm. It is just the next phase of what's about to happen. So I believe these things are what's going to take place. And like I said, I wanted to leave that whole thing about the UFOs and everything out. And I did a month of meditation and asking for forgiveness from, I was having to sort of live through the shock and awe and sorrow and this reverberation, I guess, of the Christians who, if my story, once they understood it, it was going to really affect them. But then after all that was over, the Holy Spirit also decides to share with me, oh, by the way, your book is probably the only thing that will keep Christianity intact, because you actually covered this part of Christianity, that it's part of the entire understanding of who Jesus was and who we are.
Sure.
It's not apart from us.
Sure.
That's why you see so many UFOs in these ancient paintings.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't deny. I love people who say, oh, that was just their imagination. Okay, whatever. You got to understand, it took time to do that, so they're just imagining, the amount of work and that it took, then the cave and the drawings and all of those things. I just kind of chuckle when I hear people say, oh, they were just imagining. It was their version of, what would you think if an alien race 2,000 years come from now and see a movie say aliens? Well, they would think it was a movie because it says movie. On it or whatever. It's just, I don't know. It's funny. Jeremy wanted me to ask you, he's in the chat room, please ask your guest if he has any thoughts or opinions on the person and or works of Jay Weidner, Weidner, Weidner. Are you familiar with his works?
Yes, I am. He wrote the Secrets of Alchemy. That's actually a video. And he, that guy's dead on. His work with the shockwave and the cross of Henday, and then Falconelli's information on the cathedrals is just astonishing. And the last time that shockwave hit the earth, the caves down in Peru saved them. That's what he figured out through his investigation. And he also came across this shockwave, and he met a physicist, I believe he is, Paul Laviolette, who wrote a book, Earth Under Fire, about this shockwave that strikes the earth, and the technology he had to use to try and find the evidence for it. It's in our ice core. Every 26,000 years we're hit with a shockwave. Again, the ancient 26,000 year great day. When this shockwave hits, it won't just be a shockwave. The center of the galaxy is becoming a quasar. It's a quasar already. It just lights up. So you get your great central sun that lights up for thousands of years. And we're in the darkest before the dawn, sort of. But Jay Weidner's research is incredible, and I do mention him in my second book and lead readers to him. Yeah,
well, which is kind of wild because I had a conversation. I'm trying to think. 2 weeks ago with Joe Taylor and of course Dr. Aaron Judkins, but Joe was actually talking about the massive stones in Peru, in that area, and his thought process is that was to keep giants out. But you know what? If you're talking about the shockwave and the fact that they went into the caves, maybe it was their, how do we say, they experienced this massive shockwave, and then they're like naturally going, well, we need to build better defenses against this thing in the future. So that's when they moved these stones, the Peruvian stones, into place.
Actually, it was the giants who put the stones there.
Oh, so you think it was the giants? So you're along with Joe?
Yeah, well, they have all those gigantic skeletons down there. I mean, he himself, Joe Taylor, has recreated some of these skulls. You can't take a baby's head and wrap it and get double the brain capacity he would have had, and then you also lose some of the sutures in your skull. You now have either none or only one running across. It's a totally different species right there.
Yeah.
Those were what they called, and L.A. Marzulli calls them the Nephilim. Yep. He just throws everybody in there in that group. They were not the Nephilim. The Nephilim were only those born of the daughters of Adam and Eve. They had a soul, and they were great warriors. Genesis 6:4 at the end states, these were the heroes of old, the men of renown. And during the Nephilim wars, they saved us. They're the only thing that defeated the reptilians. They're the only species or race of warriors that has ever defeated the reptilians. The giants, on the other hand, when the Anunnaki had intercourse, married the regular females that had no soul, those creatures were selfless. Selfish. Much like our politicians, basically, with the incredible powers and speed, and they were also cannibals. And L.A. mentions that some of these were killed by lightning, and he says that the lightning bolts are still on the stones where these giants were all killed in this valley. Well, the weapons the Nephilim created were these giant cigar-shaped ships that fired massive bolts of lightning by tapping into 0-point energy and just unleashing it on whatever was nearby of a similar polarity or opposite polarity. So they would have destroyed them. And again, the weapons of Zeus being Enlil, the weapons of lightning. So that entire section, I would really like to talk about the Nephilim Wars, what took place and how they were able to defeat the reptilians and where the evidence is for that. The moon is all that damage on the moon, those giant craters. Those are not craters. That is damage caused by thunderbolts, massive lightning thunderbolts. Look up the Thunderbolts Project. One of the first things they mention. Yeah. Those are not craters. And it was the Nephilim who destroyed them. It was a fleet called the Tartarus Fleet. There were 50 ships in all. The largest one, 52 miles long, called the Pegasus.
Wow.
And the smallest was 16 miles long. It took them 2,000 years to build them.
Wow. Well, Joseph, we hit our bottom break. We have one more segment left. You want to hang on, or are you?
Sure.
You're good? All right. So we'll take a quick break here. We'll wrap the show up. Get your questions in now for our guest, Joseph Reyna. 5 Eagles has joined us in place of Rob Skiba. So get your questions in now in the chat room as we wind down this cruise.
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network. is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
what a night as we roll on into the docks here in our last segment of the show. I hope you guys had a good cruise. It was a little bumpy, had a little turbulent seas out there, but we all got home safe and sound. We have such an adventure to tell our friends and family. I hope you tell your friends and family about us. I think it's very important. Yeah, I said that the way I want to grow the show is organically. I don't want to, I don't want tricks or sleight of hands or increased numbers that aren't actually there. I want listeners who want to be listeners. Hey, Becky, welcome. Kim, welcome to the show. Welcome back. But I want listeners who want to listen to us, and one of the ways that we can do that is by you guys telling all of your friends and family about, say, hey, look, you found a great show. And I will tell you, we've made it easier for people to listen to the show. If you guys haven't been out to our website, get out there. It's www.themidnightocean.com. That's themidnightocean.com. On the menu, if you're searching with your phone, which is cool, you can probably scroll down to the bottom. You'll see an Android link or you'll see an iPhone link. If you click on that, it will install the Midnight Ocean's Android app or iPhone app, whatever one you select. And in that way, you can carry us with us 24. All of our shows are there. And also the cool thing about it is that when we go live, it will show you the live shows. So you no longer have to log into the web. We enjoy you guys in the web. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy every one of you in the chat room, but this way it allows for a little bit easier access. You take us with you on the plane, on the train, in the automobile. And talk about train, heartfelt goes out to all of those in New Jersey. I want to let you guys know that we are thinking about you. The nation's thinking of you. And we will pray for your quick recovery, and also for the family who lost a family member. I think one was dead. Tragic. I've ridden in Metro trains, and I've always wondered what happens when those things go astray like that. So I appreciate it. Hey, here's a little bit of relief. 4 states' attorney generals just filed a motion to stop Obama's internet transition. That's right. That was done today. So hopefully we can get that done. But they filed it in the federal court of Texas, which has always been on the right side of the Constitution. So hopefully we can get a block there. I don't think it's really going to block. I think they're just going to push it through. And so hopefully, like I said, we'll get some reprieve. We'll know tomorrow. We will definitely know tomorrow. And as, like I said, we wrap up this evening, we have our guest who has joined us so graciously as he's done in the past. As some would say, the Midnight Ocean's version of Linda Moulton Howe, Joseph Reyna, 5 Eagles, is joining us. One thing though, Joseph, I do appreciate you. Look, I love Linda and I love her reporting. What drives me nuts is that she would pull out that clunky tape recorder. And, every time she did the Art Bell show, she would be like, I was investigating cow mutilations. And I understand it, but then I just envision that big old black, and we all had them as kids growing up, the black tape recorder. I just imagine that getting clunked down on the table and her hitting the play button, and the good old days of Linda Moulton Howe. I actually reached out to her, asked her if she'd be on the show. I haven't heard anything back. So I don't know if I'm finding that some of these guests are contractually obligated not to go on other shows. They've signed agreements. So I don't know. I'd love to have Linda on the show. I think like I said, she's a mainstay. It just drives me nuts. I'm going to tell her to leave her tape recorder at home though. I'm going to talk to her. Say, look, I don't want to talk to your tape recorder. I want to talk to you, Linda. I want to know what's in your, what you're thinking. Yeah. So, oh Lord. But yeah, she gets a lot of flack. People are like, oh my God, Linda, when she came back to Art Bell, when he came back on the air, everybody's like, oh, it's Linda. Oh, it's so boring. No, I actually think that she's pretty interesting. The problem is no one said, hey, Linda, stop using tape recorder. Just, let's you and I just have a talk. I think I think I could do a really great show with her. because I would tell her that I'd say, don't bring your tape recorder. We're just going to have a conversation. Yeah. So,
earlier, one of your listeners asked about Joe Wiedner.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
Yeah, Joe. Yep.
He covers the Cross of Henday. Have you ever heard of that? Cross of Henday?
I am learning. So you got to understand, Joe, I am a neophyte in all of this. I am learning I'm learning through you guys. You please do not assume that I know anybody. I am learning just like my listeners are learning. And actually my listeners can probably teach me a few things. So no, never heard of them.
Well, see, when I wrote the book, it was so long. I had to, actually 900 pages. I broke it down to 700 and I had to break it in half to release the first half. And then I was given additional information where I had to change the second one now. It's actually ready to go. I just don't want to release it because of the information I want to change. But in there, I covered the Cross of Henday. And what was fascinating about the Cross of Henday, at the bottom of the pillar, there are 4 pictograms, one on each face. One of them has like a fairy tale moon. Another one has a star, sort of starburst. And the other one has a sun, has 2 rings around it, and the sun looks kind of angry with these waves coming off of it. And then on the back, there's an oval. It's got a cross in there, and in each cross it has an A, 4 A's. And he does a great job of decoding it. I think he pretty much got it very accurately. On the last one, though, the oval, that gave him some trouble. But once he realized that is the 26,000-year cycle, and you have the 4 ages, the golden age, the silver age, the bronze age, and the iron age, the ages of enlightenment, or whatever you want to call them. The tarot, it has special cards called the arcana, and these cards all fall into order. They have numbers assigned to them. The 17th card is the moon. The 18th card is the star. The 19th card is the sun. And I hope I got the numbers right. And 20th would be it's an angel blowing a trumpet. On the trumpet is a white sort of flag with a red cross on it, and the souls are rising from their graves. It's Judgment Day. And if you go back one more card, which isn't on the pillar, it is the tower. And the tower shows 2 individuals on each side, upside down. They're dressed in civilian clothing. The tower's on fire. There's lightning striking it. And the Illuminati wanted to send a message when they destroyed those towers. And you see people jumping off on the tower. The 2 individuals on each side, they've jumped off the tower. That's why they're in the air, upside down, in civilian clothing. And the towers are on fire. It means total ruin, total destruction. And they would have collapsed the world at that point, the entire economic system of the world, and then brought it back up with a new world order, a new money system, a new government, except for Y2K. Y2K ramped up sales of survival gear, generators, and whatever else, and it kept the country going after 9/11. And what's fascinating about Y2K, people say, oh, nothing happened. Well, that's not true. I was a technician at Motorola, and half the machines we switched over crashed. We had backed them all up, of course. On that night, there were people at the plant. We were not allowed to leave that alone. I was on standby. I was not out partying. I had to be on standby. Every technician was on standby, and the ones that were not on standby had to be on the premises, all supervisors. That's how seriously they took Y2K, because they saw how many problems we had with it. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for all the billions of dollars and man hours that went into fixing that problem, it would have been a disaster.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I was actually part of that I was working for an insurance company during the Y2K scenario, and it was a lot of people. To be honest with you, most of the guys that I was working with, as we were adjusting the tables and the formulas and stuff, most of it from a financial standpoint was a money game. It was a money thing. It didn't affect it really wasn't going to affect a whole lot in the long run. Believe it or not, what was that was more devastating was recent. The leap year actually had a greater impact than Y2K did. So yeah, I know they were talking about airplanes and guidance systems and all of that stuff, but I wasn't a big concern. But oh man, my friend Joseph, it is long in the night as we pull into the dock. Use that metaphor and everything. Is there anything you want to throw out there to the guests? Hey, tell them about your book. Tell them about your website. How do they reach you? And more. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't have a website. I've just recently did a Twitter thing. It says @5eagles. I don't really know how to use it yet. I've never tweeted. But I created the Acolyte's Quill. And in there, like I said, there are probably 20 different videos. Some are short. One's about 8 minutes. The 5 truths about the pole reversal. That's a really fascinating one with that guy, Suspicious Observers. I had been following him for years. And Marshall Masters, Planet X 101. He pretty much covers everything you would want to know about what is out there. What were they looking for? Is there any evidence for it? It's there. Oh, they found it. Okay, now they have to cover it up because it's on its way back and keep the people from knowing about it. And then you've got stuff about the Anunnaki. Gerald Clark, he goes into the genealogy, the different ranks, what they do, what they stand for, and pretty much the history of Earth while the Anunnaki were here and what they were doing. The Anunnaki are pretty much the gods you see in all the ancient pantheons. And he thinks that the one they call Yahweh would be Enlil, and it pretty much matches everything Enlil demanded of people. The bad one, the one they would call the shiny one, Satan, that is actually Enki, and he's the one that created us and gave us the passion and made the body be able to grasp onto a soul, a creation of creator, an awakening, I guess, to a possession of a piece of creator within the form of the human body. So for that, he was in a lot of trouble because they didn't want that. They just wanted a mindless, simple being that did what was told. And once they left the planet, then they would die out. They were also androgynous, male and female. He created them both. So they were androgynous. It was Enki who specifically changed them and worked with the genetics to try and create, have them be able to procreate. So Gerald Clark goes into a lot of that. I've got pretty much everything that's on there. I have seen it. I have great respect for these individuals, and I hope you learn from that. It's free. Yeah. My book is called Incredulous. That wasn't going to be the name of the book. It had a rather long name at first. A truth for a truth, and a lie for a lie. I still like that title, but it's too long, so I shortened it, and then I shortened it still further with this word because it appeared to me while I was driving. It sort of came forward, just hung there in the air. I could see through it. That doesn't usually happen. It's happened other times where I see something that's actually more of a vision, but I can see it perfectly. It's just kind of opens up there like a window. Yeah. Well, and this was just fascinating, and I didn't know what the word meant exactly. Had a pretty good idea what it was, but it was a perfect word for the title. It means unwilling or unable to believe, not that it isn't true. And the second book would actually really push you to the limits of believing. This one here, it's a novel. It's written kind of like The Matrix, kind of like National Treasure. And it takes the reader through a time. This guy, he does treasure hunting, he's remote viewing, and he gets trapped in a time portal, I guess you'd call it, in the Bermuda Triangle, and he's taken back to the time of Christ. He was a priest for the Roman Church, an exorcist, so he's well acquainted with the Gospels, and he finds himself as one of the 12 disciples of Christ, and in a position to make changes and not allow to happen what took place. It still takes place, quite different from what we've been told, and then when you look at the evidence of that story, backed by actual factual evidence and a motive, that makes far more sense than the story we've been given over and over and over. That just kind of leaves a lot of things hanging out there. I also found out Judas never betrayed Jesus. That word is not betrayal. And Jesus considered him a favored disciple. He's also counted among the 12 who saw him, and he went on to conduct a tremendous amount of miracles, so many that they had to add a second Judas to the list and give him the credit for those miracles, because Judas had to sort of be destroyed, same way Mary Magdalene had to be destroyed. I discovered that Judas was Jesus' identical twin brother, and there's always been legends of an identical twin brother. Ramtha by J.Z. Knight, who's channeled by J.Z. Knight, he mentioned that Jesus had an identical twin brother. And then when you actually find out what happened, he either had an identical twin brother, or I can show you his tomb. It's in Kashmir, because that's where the twin brother's buried, close to Mother Mary's tomb, which is also in Kashmir. And anyway, that's what the book deals with.
Wow. And incredible stuff.
Oh, I also found out he was guilty of the crime of sedition against the emperor, and it was a Roman arrest with a cohort, which is 1/10 of a Roman legion, 600 soldiers. And then the Jews rearrested him, trying to pin something on him at the last minute so they could sort of put jurisdiction and prevent him from getting executed, not to save Jesus, but their own hides, to prevent rebellion.
Gotcha. Oh, man, what a night. What a night, my friend. I appreciate it, and I hate to cut you off, but we're going to have to wrap this up. I've got a few words to say to the children in the chat room. Not children, listeners. I don't know if you're watching the chat room and stuff, but I've got a few things that I gotta do a little just kind of reminder of what's going on here, why we are all here. So that's going to take a few breaths out of me, but I will definitely get your links back up on tonight's show. I'll change everything, Joseph, to give you full credit for the show. I appreciate you jumping in there, my friend, and helping me, carry on tonight's tradition of a great show. I think it was awesome. I thoroughly enjoy this format. I got to look into a little bit more, though, how I can get a little bit more interactive with the guys in the chat room, and now that we have more and more listeners that are coming on every day.
Well, they asked fascinating questions. They were very good questions.
Yeah, no, they were great, outstanding questions. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we had a great show, and that's why I'm really, really upset at the fact that they're tarnishing the show by going after each other in the chat. It's a long history, though, but I'll deal with that, my friend. And stuff. Like I said, hey, guys, if you 50% is the guest and the other half is what goes on in the chat room. It's entertaining in some regard, but we'll have a nice little powwow about that here in a little bit. But take care of yourself. I will definitely be in touch. And by the way, L.A. Missouri, he's going to be on the show. Thank you for arranging that. Yep, L.A. agreed to be on the show next month, which is going to be a great show.
Yeah, I don't think L.A. is going to like my book very much. He's very much the whole Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And I have no problem with that. Just the evidence doesn't show that. And he didn't say that.
Look, and this is actually, this is a great segue. This is actually, I'm glad you said that, because this is a very good segue, because I'm over here watching the chat room, and I will say, look, people, once again, it's divide and conquer. That is the goal. That is how they do it, and that is how they will overtake us. I understand people have different beliefs. People have different, as this show grows, we will have Muslims on, as guests. We're going to have Christians as guests. We're going to have Jews as guests. We're going to have all sorts of people as guests. The common thread is to bring non-mainstream ideas to the mainstream. And every culture has non-mainstream ideas. The thing is that I do ask that when you are like a dinner, think of it as a dinner date. Right? Think of it as a dinner date. When you are a guest or you are a listener on this show, you have been invited to dinner. And when you are here, even though you agree or disagree with the other guests or with the other dinner party, i.e. the listeners, keep it to yourself. I'm just going to say that. Keep it to yourself. Sit back.
I know you're trying to wrap it up. Jesus was the Messiah. He is the King of Kings. He is returning at this time because everything's falling into place. And there's a passage in the Quran, which I quote in my book, and he speaks of the 3 days of darkness. And he says, after the 3 days of darkness, you shall see the Son of Man, the Messiah, returning. And he's talking about Jesus, returning in the clouds of heaven, and he will unite the Muslims and the Christians under one banner. That is in the Quran.
Yeah. And I agree. I think we're all going to become, and that's the purpose of Messiah. Messiah was originally brought back, and this is my teachings when I was at the Chabad with the Lubavitch. So the Messiah was brought back to unify the Jewish people. You know, God's going to come back now, not to unify the Jewish people, the Christian. He's going to come back. He's the unifier of all, and he's going to unify all of us. And that's and I get that. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. And I can't wait. I mean, it's going to be a good time. So, well, take care of yourself. And like I said, I will definitely be in touch. I will be in touch. All right.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, no, thank you. Once again, come on. You helped me. For those that don't know, Joseph, actually, we were supposed to have Rob Skiba was supposed to join the show tonight, but please, everybody, all right, put everything aside. I'm going to address what's going on in chat here in a second, but let's be positive here. Put everything aside, what's going on right now. Rob Skiba was supposed to be on the show tonight, talking about his book and his projects and everything. He did not show up. So Joseph Renia, Five Eagles, jumped in. He's kind of like our Linda Moulton Howe. I don't want to, I think that's a good compliment, but he comes in and Joseph is always sending me stuff every day about what's going on. And it's dead on, guys. Dead on. So so we asked Joseph, and he took time out of his schedule to get onto the show and share his knowledge and what he's been doing research on with us. And I deeply, deeply appreciate those efforts and stuff. But let's talk about Rob. Rob didn't make it, and he didn't return a call or something. Please, everybody send out good energy to Rob and his family. I hope that he didn't show up because there was miscommunication. I hope it's on me. I hope it's my mistake that he didn't show up. But please, everybody, just put out that good juju mojo or whatever to Rob. And that's how we do things around here. No bad, no ill will. None whatsoever. The other thing too, guys, I'm not going to censor people. I don't believe in it. I don't, you guys carry on what you want to do and everything, but I do ask, just please be courteous. I understand there's bad blood. I know the history. For those that are in the chat room, I do know the history. We don't have to recant it. You don't have to IM me privately and stuff. I don't really, to be honest with you guys, I really don't care. All I care about is what you're doing now. And I don't care about the past. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody aligns with the wrong people. Everybody has done that. I mean, I've done it in my past. I mean, listen to tonight's show. You're going to hear a lot about my past. And I get that. All I ask is that when we're here, because this is the other thing too. I want to address every listener that listens to my show. And right now we use the chat room to do that. When messages are flying by the screen on stuff that has nothing really to do with the show, it's hard for me. Think of it this way. It's hard for me because I make it a purpose, a specific purpose to try to address everything that's being said by the people in the chat room. And if there's things that are floating by there, maybe we have a new listener, someone who's never heard the show ever before. And when this goes on in the chat room that I'm seeing now, what makes you're hurting me. And if you like my show, please, do it somewhere else. And if that means I'm going to lose you as a listener, I guess I'm going to lose you as a listener. But do it somewhere else because you're hurting me. Because think about it. We have new people that come into the show every day. We're growing, right? We're growing right now. And they come in and they see you guys bickering about stuff. And I get it. I understand. Please, I understand. I do. I really do. But this is not the place for it. And and I'm just saying that think of it that way. Think of it as a person who has never saw this show ever. And they were turned on to it by a friend of theirs. And then they come into the chat room, they're watching on YouTube, and they see this stuff going. All you're doing is, you guys have your battles somewhere, because all you're doing is hurting me. And you're hurting our show, getting it out there. So if that's your intention, then carry on. Then I know where your alliances are. Please, guys. Have some respect for me. That's all I ask. Right? Enough said. So without further ado, I just want to say thank you, guys. It was a great show. Great, great comments, great questions. That was outstanding. I appreciate it. I'm going to try really hard. Maybe I'll get another. Let me see what I can. I know that's not your goal, but you got to think of it that way, guys. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not lumping. I'm just saying. Once again, I'm going to stress this one more. I'm not picking sides. I'm just saying, think of the optics of what has happened in there in the chat room. New guest or new listener comes into the show and they see this stuff flying through the screen. What's that going to make? What are they going to think when they see that kind of stuff? Right? This is the optics. I'm not taking sides. I'm not saying so-and-so shouldn't have started it. So-and-so should have finished it. So-and-so shouldn't have. I'm not even going there. Think of the optics. Just think of that. All right. And, no hard feelings. I'm a peace, love guy. I forgive everybody because I'm not perfect. He without sin cast the first stone. I am definitely not picking that rock up. I am nowhere near that rock. I need to turn around and walk away right now. Right. So, that's it. Done. I don't want to hear done. I'm done with that. So let's get back for tomorrow's show. I want to let you guys know Ed Roman's going to be joining in the show tomorrow. It's going to be outstanding. That's going to be a really cool show because Ed, for those that don't know, Ed is Indie Artist of the Year or hopefully going to be 2016 Indie Artist of the Year. Most of the verbal music that we play, the ones with singing, that's Ed Roman doing that. And my ending song, my theme song, and I'm going to work some out with Ed because, we're going to grow this show. We're going to grow this with everybody that's here today. Every one of our listeners, that's how we're going to grow the show. I remember I am so happy. Let me tell you, I'm grinning from ear to ear because I'm looking in the chat room, in the room, and I'm seeing 10 people right now following the show. I remember the day where we had 1, maybe 2, right? And more importantly, I'm seeing people that I've never seen before. Thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate your presence. I really do. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And so, but Ed's going to be joining us tomorrow. Next week, we got kind of an open schedule. I've got some pretty cool things coming down the pipe. I think next week's going to be UFO week is going to be the underlying, and we're going to kick it off with a pretty cool UFO tape. Yeah. And if you guys are interested in being a guest, because this is what I'm going to do on Monday. I think we're going to start it off with Monday. We're going to play a tape that I've acquired, and we're going to, if you want to participate, just IM me through Facebook or send me an email. The best way to reach me is production. Oh, yeah, this is some new emails I got to get out there to people. production.themidnightocean@gmail.com. That's production.themidnightocean@gmail.com. Reach out to me if you'd like to be on the show next week as a guest, as a host. We're going to be talking about UFOs. And don't worry, you don't have to be an expert. I'll do that for you. But it would be cool because I'm going to play some pretty cool things. I'm going to be playing some pretty cool things. And it would be cool to have feedback, have people live on the air. Maybe I'll have 2 lines open so we can have 2 guests at the same time. as we play these tapes and these audio recordings of UFOs. Pretty cool stuff. So that is on tap probably for Monday. And then we're going to fill the rest of the week with experts in ufology. So next week is definitely going to be the UFO week, the UFO show. So that's going to be cool. And so look out for that. Also, make sure that you let your friends and family know. Download the apps. We built those guys for you. We built those apps for you so you can communicate with us and also take the shows with you. So use them. We put a pretty big investment into that. So please use those applications. But getting back to Ed, yeah, he's going to be joining us tomorrow. We're going to maybe spend a few minutes talking about music. We got to do that. But the other thing is that we're going to talk about his experiences. You know, if you listen to Ed Roman's music, you'll know that there's some paranormal underpinnings there. And we're going to have that conversation. That's going to be a pretty cool conversation as we go into the weekend and everything. What a great show. I really like this format. I think what we will do, though, is we'll do it maybe on a Thursday. Thursday's a good day, not Friday. I kind of like Fridays to have a guest. And so we'll do this on Thursday. Everybody else is open line Fridays. I have whatever. I want to still have a topic and just have people talk about it because your opinions do matter. But yeah, send me an email if you'd like to be on Monday's show, production.themidnightocean@gmail.com. The other thing, too, is one of the things that we're doing, and I know everybody's got needs out there, so there's no reason why this mailbox isn't full. It's called healing.themidnightocean@gmail.com. Healing.themidnightocean@gmail.com. What that is basically if you need like good energy sent out because you have something going on in your life, let us know. All I do ask is that you mark the email what can be shared. So you type shared or share at the beginning. You type in what you want us to share about your story. And at the end of the sharing, you type in end, right? At the end, type in end, share, end. Or you say start, end. I don't care, just to note it so any human intelligent person can figure it out. And we will read your story on the line, and then we will send you guys a good mojo. Our listeners can do that. I think it's something that we can all do together to kind of help each other out. And everything. Everybody needs help. I mean, don't be an island all to yourself. It's no fun. It's not a great thing. Well, I do have to wrap it up. I'm going to have some audio work that I have to do, thanks to whatever entity did whatever they did do. But like always, remember, be love. That's all it is. Just be love. And hang out in the chat room as we play the song, because I'll take a break, and if you guys have questions for me in chat, I will answer them as we are doing the audio. So yeah, the show I know ends when it's over, but I'm up for a few more minutes as I'm processing the audio, making sure everything goes out. So feel free to stay in the chat room and YouTube, and I'll try to answer your questions between keystrokes and all of that. But you've been listening to the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. Make sure you join us every weeknight right here on YouTube or live through Spreaker on our website at themidnightocean.com from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're new to the show, new listener, make sure you hit that most important button there and subscribe on YouTube. That helps us out tremendously. Also follow us on Facebook by typing in The Midnight Ocean. You can actually join the listener group by typing in Midnight Listeners. And of course on Twitter by following us at the MN Ocean, at the MN Ocean. Be well, but more importantly, be love.
I'm a radical. I am love. dark when it's bold. You know, it may seem like a coda, but I learned it from my baba. It's not what you believe, it's what you do. It's what you do. It's what you do. What you doing now? In a fraction of an inch. And loving all is one is supposed to be a cinch. Be a messenger, be a radical, be love. Be a messenger, be a radical.
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.